So, all the controversies about Adobe and having bad practices and the lawsuit by the DOJ, what should creators do? Lately, I've been contemplating a lot about the issues with Adobe, with their pricing style, also with cancellations, and just kind of a little bit of their shady terms of services that they came up recently. That they kind of got a little bit of some issues, and I guess they caught a little bit of the bad end of that end because they really obviously did some bad wording into it, and a lot of people just started kind of going at it to say how bad Adobe was. And this got me thinking, should people be leaving? Should people be finding alternatives? What alternatives do we have? And what's going to happen to Adobe with all the things that are coming to them? I mean, they have a lawsuit right now with the DOJ regarding more about their cancellation policies, but I'm sure they're going to have some other issues come up eventually. And I know people, they're just getting kind of tired of their pricing model for the monthly payment and subscription based rather than a one flat fee of just buying the program one time and having consistent, upgrades how DaVinci Resolve does. But also I get the idea of, being scared as a content creator because maybe you've raised your whole business into existence by using Adobe suites, whether it's with Lightroom, Photoshop, with their Premiere Pro, whether it's InDesign or anything like that. It gets a little bit tricky to think about because I myself use a lot of the Lightroom and Photoshop and Premiere Pro the most when it comes down to Adobe. I've done it for client work. I've done it for courses that I've had to build for other clients and as well for my own content, that it gets me thinking, what alternatives do I have? When it comes down to the photo department, there's not really much else that I could use that is more like the Lightroom. I've heard of Capture One, but every person that I know that uses it says it's great, but there's a lot of limitations compared to what Lightroom's had and what they miss about it and things like that. And as well, obviously, I know my workflow already with Lightroom, how fast and efficient I can be, and I can create my content and color grading and everything really fast with it so I can have better and faster outputs. So with all that being said, it's been interesting to see everything that's been coming up to Adobe, that it makes me wonder if for whatever reason something would happen to it, what should I do as a content creator to move and, save my workflow a certain way or prevent it or kind of get a step ahead of it to just have a, backup plan. I'm curious to know if you have an alternative to Lightroom that you use, because personally, I know there is an alternative to Photoshop. It's called Affinity Photo. I've actually used Affinity Photo way back before it kind of became, I guess, I don't want to say popular because it wasn't like that, but I used it before I used with Adobe Photoshop because of the pricing. And I knew that I wasn't going to be spending all this money with, the subscription-based style that Adobe had. So I went ahead and got Affinity for like my iPad, my MacBook, and as well for PC. And at the time, you had to buy the licenses separately, but most of the time I would buy them on a Black Friday deal, and I got them for super cheap. And the cool thing about it was that it was a one-time fee, and that was it. They would give you some, types of upgrades of like certain like stuff that wasn't necessarily software updates, but just like little kind of like, I guess, like if you wanted certain brushes that you maybe want to buy or things like that to make, I guess, their extra money. But there was never another fee when it came down to having to upgrade certain things of it. And with Adobe, I know with the consistent upgrades and everything, I get both worlds when it comes down to the pricing model that they do. So then eventually I went into Adobe and started using the Lightroom because I love the Lightroom app. I mean, for me, it just works so well when it came down to editing my photos, especially a bulk amount of photos, because with Affinity, you can only do one photo at a time. At least then, I haven't used it yet anymore, so I'm not really sure. But I was able to essentially just only do one photo at a time. It was hard to copy the edits that you did on one photo to the next one that could have been similar the way that you do with Lightroom. So for me personally going forward, I mean, it's having to find something that is as similar to that's going to be interesting to do if I have to do that route, especially with my workflow and, output that I need to have. I want something fast and efficient. And I've done that a lot with the channel, talking about, gear that makes me become better, faster, and efficient when it comes down to my content creation for myself or for clients. So that's what kind of gets me thinking about what could happen to Adobe. For the video part, I'm not as worried about it because there is a lot more competitors kind of style when it comes down to the Adobe, Premiere Pro things like DaVinci Resolve with their one-time fee where you buy the studio version versus the free version, because you can use their free version quite nicely. I mean, there's limitations, of course, but for me with the DaVinci Resolve Studio, you can pay the one time, I think it's $300 fee, or if you buy anything with the Blackmagic design, kind of anything that they have, they give you the license for free to my knowledge. So that's an alternative that can do that. I heard it's even better than Adobe Premiere Pro, especially for color grading, that eventually I do want to switch into because of the color grading experience and things of that sort. But for me, Premiere Pro has just worked very nicely for what I needed it. And for the, kind of how I would bundle things, it just made sense with the pricing that I was like, it is what it is. So now that end, I wouldn't mind if it if I have to change that part, it's whatever. But obviously there is the issues of now with all the AI stuff that they're bringing out to their Premiere Pro, Lightroom, Photoshop, that the terms of service that Adobe put out, that was a little bit shady, that they're saying basically we can use it however we kind of want to, for lack of saying all the details, it'd be too boring to go through it all like that. But essentially they would have the right to do whatever they want with it, as much as you have the right for your own stuff, because it's their AI learning software kind of scenario too. So a lot of people that have like NDAs and anything like that for client work, that they're not allowed to be sharing a lot of stuff, because obviously if Adobe has access to it however they want to, you're giving them access to, maybe it's a secret project for a company that they want you to keep, on the hush hush until it's released, and everything, how it's made and everything like that has to be disclosed only for them and you, because you're the client and the creator for it and everything. So it got a little bit hectic when it comes down to that it's just very interesting that they chose to go that route. And I know Adobe's getting a lot of hate, so it's interesting that's what's going to happen. And I felt like making a video about it, because more about what alternatives are there. It's gone to the point where Adobe has created such a big market for themselves that I don't know what else there is that can make sense for me to go to. Like, for example, the video part we already covered, that I know what I could do, because DaVinci Resolve, I've heard really great things. I heard it's a lot better anyway. That would be an easy one to more transfer to, just get used to it again, I guess. But the photo department, besides having Affinity Photo, where it's like Photoshop, and Capture One, that's more like the Lightroom part of it, what else is there? Could there be anything that would be more like Lightroom workflow, where it's just smoother and everything like that? Because I know Capture One could be fine. I'm sure I've never tested it out, but I've heard it from friends of mine that use it, that they say, I still miss a lot of the stuff from Lightroom. I just don't want to pay for the services from Adobe. So am I willing to give that up? I don't know yet. I'm just curious, if you have any workarounds or alternatives that, revolve into the Adobe suite to get, something alternative wise, that it's a one-time fee only, or I don't know, different method that could work out. I would love to know your thoughts on that end, because I would love to know alternatives for myself. Like, what is there? Should there be a concern about that? Because, not all of us have an access to be able to just up and go to the next, software or whatever that we want to use, or app to edit our photos. So I'm interested to know what could happen with that. That's pretty much it when it comes down to the thought of it. I mean, I feel like with the market share that Adobe has had, has made it very interesting of a position to have. Obviously, I know a lot of people are going to say just pirate it because you could, and ethically and legally, full disclosure, I'm not condoning any of that. That's your decision to do whatever you want to do. I'm not influencing anything of that. But it also brings up a subject, because apparently there's another thing that says you don't own anything if you're doing a subscription basis. It's been happening with video games, even, that if you're paying a subscription, like for example, like with a PlayStation Network or Xbox or anything like that, they can remove the game at any time. Or even if you buy a digital download of the video game or even movie, they can remove it, because if they lose the rights to let you use it, you lose the content, so, and you're paying full price for it. So it brings out to the question that if me buying something digital is not permanent, then piracy is not piracy. It's just me borrowing the software that you let me borrow as well. So it's free game on that end. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. But I know that there's going to be a lot of issues going forward. And I know Adobe already started backtracking on their terms of services, and a lot about like now putting their cancellation fees more obviously, because they're getting in trouble with the DOJ about it. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy time for content creators to see what's going to happen. Hopefully somebody else steps up that has a better model that works similar to at least Lightroom, that could be really beneficial for everybody. But yeah, in all words, just let me know below what your thoughts are about the situation. What softwares do you have differently that could work out to compete with, the Adobe suite? We'd love to know your thoughts on that, and so maybe it can help out other people. It can help out myself to prevent something in the future instead of having to rely on, a monopoly of a type of company this way when it comes down to that. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you.